Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Living the Midlife Dream. Today, I have Jenn Reed on the pod, and I am thrilled. I know that if you are in midlife, you already know Jenn Reed. You follow her, you see her lifting her heavy weights, talking about menopause, sharing her macro-friendly meals, and her amazing makeup that she sells. That I am a customer. I love it. We both have it on today, and I just thought, Jenn's authenticity really shines through on social media. She's like the big sister telling us, even though we're the same age, Jenn. So, but you might be, she might be the big sister to you and helping us all with our menopause journey. So, Jenn, thank you and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. My gosh, I don't feel like I live up to that introduction, but I appreciate it. And I am an only child, so I would love to be anybody's twin, big or
Oh,
little sister.
good. You can be my big sister because I'm the oldest of three.
Yeah, I always wish that I had siblings. I do have three stepbrothers, but we really didn't spend a lot of time together growing up. My mom was one of nine girls, and I think that just scared the bejesus out of her. And
My
she,
dad was one of nine.
wow,
Yeah.
really?
You don't hear about that anymore.
No, you sure don't. You sure don't.
And you grew up, well, I know you live near me now. We're both Eagles, Phillies fans, Flyers
Yes,
fans.
go birds.
Go Birds. Did you grow up here as well?
Yeah, I grew up not too far from here, a small town outside of Philadelphia called Collegeville.
Oh,
Some people
yes.
may have heard of Ursinus College. It's a small
Yeah.
liberal arts school that's there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was mostly farmland when I lived there. And of course, just like everywhere else, right? It's changed so much, a lot more construction. Just like things are changing for us as we get older and get to midlife. Like you go back to your hometown and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't recognize my town. It's kind of like us. We don't recognize ourselves when we hit this point in life sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
you've been actually a really great inspiration, certainly for me, to just really embrace this time. And and I think I wrote that to you like this, you really inspired me to put myself out there. So thank you for doing that.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
This is a big deal, launching a podcast and like you said, putting yourself out there. And I've listened to a couple of your previous episodes and I think it's wonderful what you're doing.
We're getting there, but thank you.
Yeah. It's a process, just
It's
like
a process.
everything.
As my
Embrace the
husband,
process.
exactly. I was going to say, as my husband says, when someone gives you a compliment, you take it. So
That's
thank you.
right. That's right. Yep. Yep.
So, can you tell us a little bit about your midlife journey? Like, what was perimenopause like for you, and when did that start?
Good question. I have no idea, is the honest answer, because I was on the pill. I went
Mhm.
on the birth control pill when I was 18 years old. In hindsight, not the decision that I would make for myself today. And it's something I have a lot of conversations with my daughter about. I have a daughter who's in her early 20s. And I stayed on that dang pill until I came off to have my two kids. And I was basically on it for 25 years. And one day decided, here I was, I had started to learn more about health and wellness, probably in my 30s and 40s and started buying organic food and was making my kids baby food from scratch
Mhm.
and doing all these things to live a healthier lifestyle. And one day I thought, why am I continuing to put this synthetic hormone in my body every single day when I'm, trying to buy pasture raised eggs and hormone free food and all those things. So again, probably would do it a little bit differently next time, but I just went cold turkey and I stopped taking it one day. If I had it to do over, I would have worked with a functional doctor to kind of wean myself off and really kept a better eye on where I was hormonally.
Mhm.
So anyway, for anyone listening who may not realize that when you're on the pill, it basically is masking any symptoms that you may have
Right.
as your hormones shift. So I have no idea what perimenopause was like. I just know that when I went off the pill, it was like I hit a brick wall. It was, if you remember that book, it was a movie with George Clooney, The Perfect Storm.
Mhm.
That's what it felt like. It was like all of a sudden, boom, everything hit all at once. It was the perfect storm. And I was a hot mess for a while.
Yeah. I can totally relate to that. I mean, I did an episode about how I know that I was in perimenopause at age 38, but I was still on the pill. And then I went off it like you, experienced so many horrible side effects, well, not side effects, symptoms.
Yeah.
And when I first went to my doctor, she basically said, "Oh yeah, I know it stinks, but we don't deal with HRT." I'm like, "You're my gynecologist." Like, what?
Yeah.
So,
It's
and I
not
was,
you, then who?
yeah. And
Yeah.
I was really desperate and I mean, I was crying. This was just like 3 years ago. It was horrible, horrible, feeling so bad. And she said, "You can go on the pill." which I had already been on it. I went off of it, but I was so desperate that I
Yeah.
was like, just give it to me. And
Yeah.
I ended up taking it for 6 months and going off of it again. But you're
Yep.
right. It makes you, it's false. It gives you like a false sense of, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I never realized it. Back then we didn't have access to the internet and all those things to
Hmm.
really understand what we were putting in our body. I had no idea exactly how the pill worked and what exactly was in the pill. I just knew when I was 18 years old, I didn't want to get pregnant. And they honestly, they get them out like candy. And there certainly are many times in a woman's life where the pill might make sense. I just
Right.
wish I had had a little more education about, how it was going to affect me staying on it as long as I did and really understanding exactly how it worked.
Yeah, exactly. So I would love to get in touch into your midlife fitness journey because that is
Okay.
actually what attracted me to you.
Yeah.
And I was telling for anyone that's listening, I was saying that, Jen and I shared the same coach. She's still with Janelle. I remember finding you like 2 years ago, and you had just hired them or, you had
Yes.
just gone on with them. And I'm like, I remember messaging you and being like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then I'm sure you don't remember this because you have a million people probably every day talking to you. But I said, my gosh, this is great. And you were like, oh, come work out with me. And I was
You
like,
should. The
I
offer still
should.
stands.
Okay, I'm going to because
Yeah.
literally for 2 years, I'm like, I just got in my head like, "Oh, she didn't mean that." She'll be like, "Who is this freak that just showed up to work out
Yeah.
with me?"
Yeah, we need to. One of the,
Yeah.
as you probably know, you're in the thick of it too. I work from home and it can be a lonely,
Yeah.
lonely thing to do, right? So you don't always
Yeah.
have as much connection with people. So yeah, anytime you want to get together and work out,
And
let's
your
do it.
gym looks amazing that you go to.
It's
I will
pretty cool. I'm not
It
gonna
looks
lie. It's
amazing.
pretty cool. It's pretty bare bones. You can't be afraid to get a little dirty and it
Yeah.
doesn't have a lot of the bells and whistles, but it's great. Great
Yeah.
equipment. And, I think there's unfortunately, a lot of midlife women who would walk into a place like that. For anyone listening, I go to a gym called Alpha Flight just to give them a shout out. They're located in Downingtown and Westchester. And I think there's a lot of women that might walk in there and be intimidated, but honestly, the people there are so nice and so friendly. And that's like one of my biggest missions is please, like,
Yeah.
don't let that stuff intimidate you. You got to get in there and just start learning and just start doing because muscle is key for longevity. I mean, you
It
can't.
is.
Right? We hear it over and over again, and it is the absolute truth.
So when did you start to I know that you were used to be a personal trainer, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. My background before that was like corporate America, corporate banking. And then once I had kids, I stopped working. And as the kids started to get a little bit older, like many of us moms, decided that I needed to find something else to do. So I did a few other things and got my certification and started my own. It was basically in-home personal training. So I would go to women's houses, mostly young moms. I would bring all the equipment. And, we weren't lifting really heavy back then.
Mhm.
But we were doing a lot of circuit training and it was called Fit and Fierce Mamas. And it was
All right.
great. And I loved it and
Yeah.
and did that for several years. So yeah, I was never an athlete growing up. It wasn't something that I got into until my 30s, which
We
I
are so
actually think has
similar.
helped me to have less injuries. There's a lot of
Yeah.
women, I think the combination of like athletics that they did younger and then coupled with declining hormones, they're starting to have a lot of joint issues, right? So knee pain, hip pain, elbow,
Yeah.
shoulder, frozen shoulder. We hear about that a lot. And I feel blessed that because I wasn't putting that wear and tear on my body. I rode horses, so
Oh,
no
cool.
injuries there. Yeah, yeah,
Well, that's amazing.
yeah,
So you did that, but then did you go through a period where, because I know I've seen you post like your before and after pictures, so to speak,
yeah,
if we want to call it
yeah,
that. But like
yeah.
what pushed you then to now you are in a build. You look absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
You really do. And I just want to talk a little bit about that was probably a pivotal moment, like giving you different perspective on midlife, maybe like going through that fitness journey. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
Yeah, it was something that really just happened organically for me that I kind of fell into falling in love with fitness.
okay.
by the way, shout out to all the girlfriends in the world because that was one of those things where I never in a million years thought I would be training people. Never thought that someone would look at me and think of me as the expert. I just did it because I liked it. And I had this girlfriend and we would work out together at the gym and, we would see the trainers at our gym working with other people, mostly women. And one day she's like, "Jen, like you know more than these people do. You should get your certification." And I was like, "Really?" And that is just, one little example of how we need to be encouraging other women.
Thank you.
Sometimes
Yeah.
we don't even see it for ourselves and we need to hear from somebody else. And I think like not even realizing it, that stayed with me. And that's like part of, why I do what I do today on social media, because I think there's so many of us, including me. And I still have times where I feel that way, where, I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I can start something new. I feel like it's too late in life. And that's all a
Mhm.
bunch of BS.
Yeah.
It's never too late. So anyway, it all happened organically. I was doing that, but then I probably didn't realize it, but my business started to become really busy. I was spending less time on myself, working out
Mhm.
myself. And then right around that time is when I went off the pill, which we talked about earlier. And
A
that just
perfect
put me
storm.
into a really bad funk. So I basically stopped training people. I stopped working. You hear about that, right? We hear about the statistics of how menopause is affecting females in the workforce, and it's mind blowing. And I don't think it's something that people really think too much about or talk about too much. That and how it's affecting marriages and relationships.
Yeah.
It's not just, "Oh, I'm going through menopause, I'm having hot flashes." And you know this, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But there's so many downstream effects of what is happening to us as women, especially, the role that we play in family, the role that we play in work. And it's so wonderful that more people are talking about menopause in general, but how it affects all these different parts of our lives. So I stopped working and started eating a lot of things I shouldn't and stopped training. And I gained, gosh, I probably gained 30 pounds, lost all the muscle that I had built and was depressed. You name it. I pretty much had every symptom aside from hot flashes. My hair
Mm.
was falling out like crazy and I was a mess. So one day, I don't know why, but one day it was like I just had this epiphany and I was like, I cannot continue to live like this. And it lasted for a few years. It was a few years. And I remember thinking to myself, this is not the mom and wife that I want to be. Like, this is not the example I want to be setting for my kids. And I literally forced myself to get off the couch. And I know it's hard, but sometimes that's what you have to do. And then that was also when I started down my HRT journey. Again, shout out to one of my girlfriends. She was like, I'm telling her all these things that are happening to me and how terrible I feel. And by the way, I had been to multiple doctors at that point because I knew something was wrong. I just didn't
Mhm.
know what. And I had been to multiple regular doctors, chiropractor, OBGYN, endocrinologists, functional doctors. Not one of them mentioned menopause. Not one. And I was in my 40s at that point.
It's
So,
unbelievable.
yeah. Yep, not one of them. They ran tests on me, they gave me supplements,
Yeah.
not one of them mentioned menopause. And it wasn't until my girlfriend said to me, "Jen, like you sound like you're in menopause." And I was like, "Huh? What?
I
No."
know. It's like, wait, not me.
Yeah. No, that only happens to everybody else in the world. And she goes, "You should think about HRT." And I said, "What is that?" I didn't even know what it was. And now I think it's so funny because people, are like messaging me with questions in my DMs about HRT and my journey. And I'm like, I started knowing nothing. So we all can get there and figure it out. Fast forward, however many years later, this was like, I think I went off the pill in 2014. So here we are, 2025. And I
Mm.
feel the best that I have felt, probably since my 20s.
Yeah. And do you attribute that mostly, though, to your lifestyle? Because I know a lot of women, and I see this a lot on social media, think, that our girl that I follow, Alicia, and I
Yeah.
know you had her. So she just posted something once where it was like, people are constantly commenting on her stuff saying, "Oh, well, you take HRT, that's why you look like that." And
Yeah.
it's like, that's not how it works.
Yeah. Oh, I
You're
get
not,
that all the time.
oh,
Anytime
you
I
do?
post a fitness reel, yes.
Wow.
There's always somebody saying, "Are you on HRT?" And I know it's not curiosity. I know it's
Yeah.
That explains it. So the same as Alicia, and she and I have become like Instagram friends. So hopefully
Yeah.
we're going to get to meet in real life because she's another just total midlife baddie. But anyway, same with her. My transformation, if you go on my Instagram, you
Mhm.
can see some before and afters took place before I had even started HRT.
Okay.
So,
Of course. I
yeah.
just wanted you to touch on that a little bit just so, I mentioned it yesterday in my episode, but it's not like you are going to start taking HRT and magically look
Yeah.
like you're 29 again. It's supposed to, I think the whole purpose of it is to replace what we've lost,
Absolutely.
right?
And, it certainly has downstream effects that can be helpful. When you're tired and you're not motivated, these were big ones for me. I
Mhm.
completely lost my mojo. I had no desire to eat healthy. I did not care. Apathy, like apathy needs to be listed on menopausal symptom checklist because that was a huge one for me. I was literally like, well, the house is on fire. Oh, well, I mean,
I know
it
it's
was
not funny, but
horrible.
I know.
You just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
So taking HRT can help with that. Your energy, your apathy, getting your mojo, getting better night's sleep. If you're, having poor sleep because of declining hormones, it can help with that, which of course is going to help you, um, you know, care more and get into the gym.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you have one piece of advice that you would give midlife women that are really struggling with just like turning 50? I have a few friends that have recently turned 50 and they just kind of look at it like, "Oh my God, my life is over." Like they're
Oh,
just stuck in this misery. And that is actually another like mission of mine is to be like, this is the best
yeah.
chapter. I really truly believe that. I really truly believe that we're just getting started, but I wanted to see if you had any advice that you could share.
Yeah, well, listen, I think it's totally normal. I think the messaging that we have received since we were kids is that aging is bad, that you're suddenly elderly once you hit 50, 55, 60. Everything that we've seen in the media, aging is ugly, especially on women, right? And
Yeah.
it's constant. We listen, we are conditioned to think that youth means vitality. And in a lot of ways it does. Like I'm not going to blow smoke up anybody's butt. Like, and I always go back to like if you watch the National Geographic channel, right? The animals that are thriving in the wild, they're the young ones, right?
Mhm, right.
The lion, he wants the young lioness to mate with, and he's not really so interested in the older lion. I get it, but we're a different species, and
Right.
we need to recognize and realize that we still do have so much value to add to the world. We are smarter, we are wiser. We don't care about the BS and the nonsense anymore, which puts you as a woman in a much different place when you make decisions and you're not worrying about, what is everyone else going to think? What are people going to say? I don't care. I'm
Mhm.
too old for that, right? And I know from personal experience that aside from feeling the best that I have felt since my 20s, like I feel like I'm accomplishing more than I did in my 20s and in my 30s. And I just wish, what I would say to women is, really take a step back and evaluate, really think about this. Is 50 really the end of your life? No. Whatever the average, whatever we're going to live to, let's say we're going to live even 75, 80. Think about how much you can do in that time. Think about how many more people you can inspire. And my tagline, I always say it, there is no age limit on looking and feeling your best in midlife and beyond. And I want every woman to rock this period because we can.
Yeah, that's great advice. And
Yeah,
I totally agree with it. One thing I do really love about you is the way that you put yourself out there. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, you really inspired me. It did take me a couple of years to get comfortable because I will admit I was in that, like, oh, what are people going to say? And caring what someone's
sure.
going to think if I start posting more on social media. And I attribute a lot of this to, looking at people like you and Alicia and other women that I follow, like they're doing it. Why can't I do it?
Yeah, I
And
love
then
that
I
attitude.
read The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, and that just like something just clicked in my brain. And it's like,
Right.
I'm going after it. So, but I want to ask you because you're very good at doing this. You show up every day, you share a lot of your life with us. What advice would you give to someone if they want to do the same thing? They just want to start, posting more on social media, but they're really afraid of what other people think and they're holding themselves back.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I do think that there's a big part of us as we age that we give fewer Fs about what people think. But on the
Right.
flip side, as women, and I do think it's related to our hormones declining, we do tend, like our confidence does take a hit a lot of times in midlife, right? We just don't feel, a lot of us, as good as we did in the past about ourselves. And so that can make it difficult for us to, as you said, want to put ourselves out there. But this is the story that I tell people all the time. And when I used to like coach women in business, this is what I would tell them because I would hear this a lot. A lot of us have children. And if you don't have children, so if you do, I want you to think about your child coming to you with this. But if you don't have children, think about like a really good friend coming to you with this. And if your child or your good friend came to you and said, Mom, I really, really want to try out for the soccer team, but all the kids that are trying out for soccer, they've been playing since they were little, little kids, and I never did that. And I'm not as good as them, and I'm not as skilled as them, and I'm afraid they're going to laugh, and I'm afraid they're going to make fun of me, and I'm afraid that I'm not going to make the team and I'm going to fail. And what advice would you give to your kids? And what you need to do is go look in the mirror and give yourself the same freaking advice, because you would
Mhm.
be telling your kid, who cares what those people think? Is this what you want to do? Are you excited about trying out for the soccer team? Go for it. Don't worry about what anybody else thinks. And that's exactly what we need to be saying to ourselves. If this is something you want to do and you want to pursue, freaking go for it. Who cares? And then there's always that expression, first of all, don't take advice from anybody who's not doing as well as you are in life. And a
Mhm.
lot of times, the naysayers, the haters, the people that are commenting are in that position. And you just have to do what's going to make you happy.
Yeah. I'm getting emotional just thinking about how much I held myself back for so many years.
Yeah.
And I don't really get emotional, but I am right now
Yeah. Let
because
it
I
go,
really
girl. Let it out.
I I held myself back for so many years caring what or just thinking what if somebody says this and what if somebody does that, and it's like I've wasted so much time. So I just feel like it's just so freeing, and I wish this for every midlife woman to feel this way. It's so freeing to do what you want, because I always say I really believe that all of us can be, do, have,
Yeah.
whatever we want in this life. All we have to do is go after it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
other people's opinions aren't going to get you there. You have to stay true to yourself. The only opinions I care about are, my family, really, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
If my
Absolutely.
kids were like, "Mom, this is really embarrassing," which I mean, I there was a time in their lives where I could just breathe and I was embarrassing,
Of
but
course. Yeah. We've all been there.
they have since grown into adults, and, even my kids were like, "No, you should totally do." They were very encouraging, and it
That's
just I don't
awesome.
know, I want everyone to feel that way. It's amazing to let it all go, just let it go. It's
Yeah.
not that
And
serious.
play out that scenario in your mind. Okay, what if I show up on social media and I make a post and somebody says something mean about it?
Yeah.
Or, next time I'm at girls' night out, somebody's like, "Oh, I saw you, posting on social media." Play it out. Think about it. Okay, then what? Then what happens?
Yeah.
Then what
Right.
happens? Do you die? No, you're not going to die.
No, we're not gonna die. We're thriving.
Yeah, exactly.
Alright, so last question for you.
Yeah.
It is really serious. What
Uh-oh.
is one thing that you cannot live without in midlife? It can be absolutely anything.
Gosh, what is one thing I cannot live without in midlife? So I'm a chocoholic and I have been since I was a kid. I have great memories of me and my mom. I think it was Friday night. It was like Dallas and Falcon Crest were on
Oh,
like
yeah.
one right after. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And, mom and I would get like, my mom has since passed away. I lost her to pancreatic cancer a few years ago. This is one of my favorite memories.
Oh,
We would
I'm
get like our
sorry.
bag of potato chips and we would put the onion dip in the sour cream container and we'd have our
Oh,
chips
yeah.
and dip and then we'd always finish with Breyer's chocolate ice cream. So I blame my mother for giving me, because she was a chocoholic too. So
You inherited that.
when I was in my, I call it my Menno hell period, my very difficult, dark, horrible, ugly time when I went off the pill and I had a few years of all the menopause symptoms. I was eating a lot of chocolate, okay? A lot of chocolate, a lot of fat, a lot of things that I wouldn't necessarily eat. And so when I started shifting, you find substitutes, things that are going to be a little bit better for you, a little bit better for your body. Not that you can't eat chocolate because I still do. But anyway, I found this brand and I have no affiliation with them whatsoever. I just love them. They're called Choc Zero and
Hmm.
CHOC Zero. And every single night I have a little shot glass of their chocolate chips and it would be real. And when I travel, I take them with me. That's
Yeah.
how much I need them in my life. So
Okay, that's good. That's a good tip, a good product.
yeah.
I found the little squares at Wegmans.
Yeah,
So those are good too
they're
for
good too.
traveling.
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
perfect.
Well, Jen, this has been amazing. I really appreciate you coming on here, sharing all your wisdom and your good stories.
Well, thank you
And
for having me.
yeah, so you guys, if you like this, you rate it, review it, please share it with a friend, and we will see you next Monday. Thank you.